I want to talk about abortion, too, because this came up at the debate. It's been a winning argument for Democrats on many ballots, but I want to clarify what the law is there in Minnesota. Abortion Finder, a website that helps women find access, says abortion is legal throughout pregnancy in Minnesota. There is no ban or limit on abortion in Minnesota based on how far along in a pregnancy you are. You signed the bill that makes it legal through all 9 months. Is that a position you think Democrats should advocate for nationally? You called yourself a knucklehead this week to talk about some of your misstatements. Yes. You've modified your story or explained that you misspoke about things involving your military rank, about carrying a weapon in war, your 1995 DUI arrest, using IVF to have your beautiful children, Gus and Hope, being in Hong Kong. And
what's going on, guys? We got to talk about Tampon Tim. This guy got cooked, destroyed, annihilated, obliterated, sizzled, charred, seared, grilled. Okay, he got barbecued by JD Vance, and the same thing appears to have happened today. Okay, he went on Fox News Sunday with Shannon Bream. Now, I'm not familiar with Shannon, but apparently this lady cooked Tampon Tim, and y'all already know how I feel about watching leftists get humiliated. So without further ado, let's get into it.
I want to talk about abortion, too, because this came up at the debate. It's been a winning argument for Democrats on many ballots, but I want to clarify what the law is there in Minnesota. Abortion Finder, a website that helps women find access, says abortion is legal throughout pregnancy in Minnesota. There is no ban or limit on abortion in Minnesota based on how far along in a pregnancy you are. You signed the bill that makes it legal through all 9 months. Is that a position you think Democrats should advocate for nationally?
Look, the vice president and I have been clear. The restoration of Roe versus Wade is what we're asking for.
But that law goes far beyond Roe v. Wade.
To make her own choice. The law is very clear. It does not change that. That was been debunked on every occasion.
But
wait, look, this is a.
But let's agree. What you signed is there's not a single limit through 9 months of pregnancy. Roe had a trimester framework that did have limits through the pregnancy. The Minnesota law does not have that.
This puts the decision with the woman and her health care providers. The situation we have is when you don't have the ability of health care providers to provide that, that's where you end up with a situation like Amanda Zaworski in Texas, where they are afraid to do what's necessary. This doesn't change anything. It puts the decision back on to the woman, to the physicians, and we know that this is simply something to be brought up to be very clear. Donald Trump's asking for a nationwide abortion ban.
Wait,
and again, we don't see this as a winning campaign.
He has said repeatedly that he will not sign a national abortion ban. Are you calling that just, it's a flat out lie?
Yes, of course. And
how are you just gonna, what is this based off of, Tim? What are you basing your opinion that Donald Trump's gonna sign a national abortion ban off of? Because at no point did Donald Trump or JD Vance, for that matter, say that they specifically were going to sign an abortion ban or that they thought abortion should be banned. Neither one of them has said that. They've said other things, but they have not said that they want to ban abortion. Like, they say they don't agree necessarily with people getting abortions and all these different things. That's not the same thing as saying, I'm going to sign an abortion ban. I don't know how many times they got to say it. What is with the Democrats loving to, like, put things in the Republicans' mouth and then saying, well, the position that the Republicans have is not the position that they're stating. We don't have any evidence of that, but just trust me, bro. Meanwhile, you got the Democrats who specifically signed legislation up to 9 months, the abortion free for all, including botched abortions, and you could still just leave a baby there to die after that. A baby's born effectively and leave a baby to die after that. We know the legislation exists. We know instances of this occur. They were doing abortions in a bus outside the DNC convention, happily doing abortions. Get your abortions. Come one, come all. Get your abortions. Here, abortions. And these crazy nutcases are out here celebrating and probably got pregnant on purpose just so they could go get an abortion at the DNC, just so they could have fun killing children.
I am Julia, the intern with the Free Press, and today I am in Chicago where the DNC is happening at the Into Action exhibit. There is a van offering abortion pills and vasectomies.
Tried to sign up, but the list was full.
They will be providing free abortions and vasectomies to attendants of the DNC that is right down the street.
You don't have to do this. Just come outside. It's not too late. We can offer you free resources. We can offer you resources to be able to thrive, to be happy, to be healthy, to have education, to have everything you need to care for your child. We can pay your rent. We can pay your car payment. We can pay for your housing. We can pay for your groceries. We can pay for anything that you need to be able to keep your baby.
And meanwhile, they just want to put words in a Republican's mouth based off of no proof and evidences. Make it make sense.
Senator Vance has in the past said so too. Now look, they may see this as an election issue. We see it as a right of women to make their own bodily decisions. And that's what the states like my state have the ability to put that in. States like Georgia force women to cross the border, and then we have a death of Amber Thurman. So let's be very clear. Trying to cut hairs on an issue.
Look, I'm going to keep it 1,000 with y'all. I live in Georgia. Unfortunately, I do know a lot of women who've had abortions like not long ago. I mean, it's like a regular thing here. So now can you get it after a certain period of time? No, not legally you can't, but can you just still get it? It's not like it's illegal to leave the state and get it. And it's not like you can't get it if it's early or if there's rape and incest, life of the mother, all of that stuff. But in terms of like, okay, can you jump into your third trimester? Like, you know what? I'm tired of this child kicking me in my stomach. So I'm gonna just get rid of it. My feet hurt, so I'm tired of this. No, you can't do that. Not in my side of town, you can't.
On this is not where the American public's at. They want the restoration of Roe versus Wade. Vice President Harris said she would sign it. That's what we'll do when we're elected.
But to be clear, the Minnesota law
right
is far beyond Roe v. Wade. And about the Amber Thurman case in Georgia, her family has, and it's tragic, she is a young mother who left behind a young son. But what her family has said is it was a complication from an abortion pill that she received, and she didn't get proper care when she went to a Georgia hospital, which had multiple opportunities to intervene there. Her own attorney, the family's attorney, says it wasn't the Georgia law, it was the hospitals, what he claims is malpractice, not treating her when she clearly showed up in distress and still had the byproducts of her pregnancy because of that rare complication from the abortion pill.
Fact. So how are you going to blame? Do you know what's crazy here? So Amber Thurman dies from trying to get an abortion. She could have just had the baby, would have still been alive. She dies from trying to get an abortion and botching the abortion. She dies from complications from a botched abortion, and then they blame Republicans? Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, she's going through abortion. Like, the care that she wasn't provided properly has nothing to do with, well, I don't want to touch that because, we might get in trouble by the Republicans. Like, no, that doesn't make any sense. This is a complete fabricated story and a lie.
Just to be clear on the Georgia law and how her family and her attorney sees it.
I think they also indicated that had she not go to North Carolina after the debate the other night, that she would have been in a better position. So look, these are the situations you're going to get into when you take this decision and put it in the hands of politicians like Donald Trump rather than women and their doctors. We trust women, we trust doctors, and we know the outcomes of that are better.
Okay, let's clarify more changes that you signed in Minnesota as well. Several things were repealed with respect to reporting infants who may have survived an abortion attempt. Language that used to be part of the statute was taken out. We'll put this on the screen so people can see. It used to require medical personnel to, quote, preserve the life and health of the born alive infant. That language has been repealed. It's no longer part of the law. Also struck from the law was language about reporting infants that are born alive, what treatment they receive, and whether they live or die. Why was it important to you to get that protection out of the law?
Minnesota law aligns with every other case of what physicians are required by their ethical responsibilities. And so it changed nothing other than aligning with all care that physicians provide in any circumstance for any medical case. And so it's alignment, as it's always been. It's the cases we've seen in Minnesota, the outcomes we get in our healthcare results are the best in the nation, and all it did was align with existing law.
But you do acknowledge it takes out the language about preserving the life of an infant who was born alive.
Every doctor has an ethical responsibility to provide what they can in each situation. That is the way the law is written now. It's the same for any person who shows up. And again,
yeah, except now it's legal to just, whatever, baby, maybe, like, who cares? Like, we tried to abort it. It doesn't count. See, to them, now you got a situation where a birth doesn't count if and abortion is attempted. So abortion is attempted, baby pops out, when? Like, wait, they ain't dead? I mean, they just, what are you gonna do? Just back into the bushes? Like, that's crazy as hell. And this fool, dummy, made it legal for you to do this. And they're trying to pretend, he's trying to pretend as though, oh, it doesn't matter. Like, it's like normal course of business. Well, I haven't heard about this going on in like all the rest of the 50 states in the United States of America. Just in your state, Minnesota.
This is a distraction from the real issue here is women being forced into miscarriages, women being forced to go back home, get sepsis, potentially die, like we saw in cases in Texas, and maternal mortality rates in Texas have skyrocketed off the charts because of this. This is bad policy. Vice President and I have been very clear on this. We will restore the rights of Roe versus Wade. We will make sure women have their health care decisions. We will not put people's lives at risk because of the geography of where they live. And it will go back to the way it was before Donald Trump gleefully said, we've got the best of both worlds here. Things are wonderful. The states are handling it. It's a beautiful thing. It's not a beautiful thing to see women dying. It's not a beautiful thing to put doctors at risk of being imprisoned.
It is not. It is not to see any single woman suffer. And by the way, there's not a single state, no matter how pro-life or restrictive their laws are, that do not allow a doctor to intercede. That's true in Georgia and Texas as well. I want to turn to the economy. Our latest polling shows that 66% of Americans we talked to said that buying groceries is a, quote, major problem for them. And when we ask people about how they feel about the policies of this administration versus the previous, double the amount of people surveyed say that Biden-Harris policies have hurt them rather than help them and their families economically. That's in stark contrast to how they feel when asked about the Trump administration. So what would a Harris-Walz administration do different than a Biden-Harris administration when it comes to convincing people that the economy is going to get better for them, because their perception is that it's not?
There's nothing about this that's perception, guys. The prices are too damn high. I'm kind of annoyed that, honestly, she even framed the question like that, because I'm tired of people pretending like you don't know what the hell you're talking about when you go and buy groceries and pay your electric bill and pay your rent and, hell, even pay your taxes if you own a house. Like, the taxes have gone up because of the inflation on the housing market. So the price of the tax automatically goes up. The value of the house increases because of inflation. The tax on it goes up. Everything has gone up. So there's no, oh, we just feel a certain way. Like, it's actual facts that inflation, it was through the roof. The prices went up, and it's going to be very, very hard. You normally can't really reduce inflation, or you normally can't reduce prices that much. So even if Trump is elected, it's still going to be tough.
Well, we saw a blockbuster jobs report this week. We saw interest rates come down, and we've also seen that Vice President Harris laying out a middle-class agenda. Look, I was in Ohio yesterday, in Cleveland, in Cincinnati, and talking about this. Folks in Ohio know that Donald Trump's policies led to 180,000 manufacturing jobs leaving. They understand when he left office, we had more people unemployed percentage-wise than the Great Depression. What Vice President Harris is talking about is making it more affordable to buy housing, and we've seen it in Minneapolis. When you have more housing stock, we've seen rates go down. We've seen more houses available. Also, the idea of price gouging. 37 states, Republican and Democratic states, have this. Corn is about $4.10 or so a bushel. That's that.
So here's the thing: if you're talking about there's already price gouging, which I've already mentioned on this channel before, that there's already some level of price gouging law in a lot of states, both Democrat-led and Republican-led states. Now, why do you need like a federal? Like, first off, what are you going to do that's different? Because in my opinion, if you're doing anything more than what the states are doing, you're probably going to be doing something wrong. One. And two, why do you need something additional to begin with? And three, how does the hell is that going to lower the actual prices? We don't need the prices to just stop going up. We need them to be lower than they are today. And if you can't do that, and like the wages is like barely creeping up and the prices are also creeping up, then it's like you never catch up. As a matter of fact, you fall further and further behind. If you can't bridge that gap, you're useless to me.
That's where it's been for many years, up and down. But prices at the grocery stores have skyrocketed, corporate profits have skyrocketed, and people are paying more. So we talk about that. And then I think the fundamental difference here is Donald Trump kept his promise. He cut taxes for the wealthiest. She's talking about making sure things like a child tax credit, $6,000 child tax credit, put more money in people's pocket, making sure that we're able to buy those things, whether it's a crib or it's baby formula, get started. And she's simply asking that we can pay for it by asking those at the top to pay their fair share. This is a fundamental difference in approaches to it, and we're seeing it working. We're seeing economists talk about Donald Trump's proposal to add a 20% sales tax will cost $4,000.
Okay.
That's everybody. That's not
Yeah.
me saying it.
And just to note, that is a tariff, which, by the way, this administration not only kept most of the Trump tariffs, but they added their own as well. So that's got to be part of the conversation. I want to talk a little bit about your record as governor, because it elucidates for people how you may serve as whether you end up being the president. You'll be one heartbeat away should your ticket be successful.
Can you guys imagine Tim Walz as president? Like if Kamala Harris, I don't know, gets hit by a bus, like, and then Tim Walz ends up being our president. Look, don't everybody jump off a bridge at once.
Journal says this after you were chosen to join the ticket. As the Democratic governor of Minnesota, Tim Walz signed into law initiatives allowing immigrants in the country illegally to apply for driver's licenses, qualify for free tuition at state universities, and enroll in the state's free health care program for low-income residents. Are those not magnets to draw people here, many times on dangerous journeys for themselves? And why should your taxpayers in Minnesota or across the states pay for those programs?
Well, that's not the vice president's position, but I will say this. Minnesota ranks as a top 5 business state. We rank as a top 3 state for children living, and we're the top state for health care access. I would also add this. We also have some of the safest roads. Look, the vice president has made it clear that she has policies that make a difference. Her border policies are the most strongest, the fairest we've seen. It's
But
the
now,
bill
Governor,
that was
you know a lot of
crafted.
people, including your own party, would not join that statement. There are millions of people who have come here over the last few years that, you know, they see this as an
The
open
policies, well, simply, we have a policy. Donald Trump sees it as a political. Look, James Langford in Oklahoma, the Border Patrol agents,
hell
the
is
Wall
this?
Street Journal, the Chamber of Commerce, all said pass this legislation. You have to have Congress to authorize 1,500 new border agents. You have to have Congress to authorize DOJ to speed adjudications on these asylum.
Trump already had 27,000, 28,000 soldiers, something like that. Like you didn't need more border agents. All you got to do is use the Mexican soldiers. These fools to let them go because they wanted to Uno reverse everything that Trump did. They said that they would, and on day one they did. And guess what happened? The floodgates of the border opened up. Nobody is buying, or nobody with brain cells should be buying this whole, oh, Trump's for open border? That's the stupidest thing. They trying to flip everything back on Trump. And it makes absolutely no sense. Like, only people who would believe this is a bunch of radical, deranged, stupid leftists, honestly. Not even, there's some smart leftists, and anybody who believed this border thing definitely are not the people who are the smart ones.
Claims. Those are things that would actually work. Donald Trump told us for 4 years he would deal with this. He didn't. He didn't build his wall, 2%. Mexico didn't pay for it. This is a real bill that has bipartisan support. It has the experts on board, and it starts to tackle these issues.
It's kind of funny that Tim is saying that Donald Trump didn't build his wall, but Kamala Harris literally has a commercial where she's recorded herself in front of the damn wall.
Kamala Harris has spent decades fighting violent crime. As a border state prosecutor, she took on drug cartels and jailed gang members for smuggling weapons and drugs across the border.
And when she went to the border, and the border wall's standing just right next to her. So I'm like, what do you mean he didn't build the wall?
And we don't have to resort to demonizing people. We don't have to resort to making up or crafting stories, as Senator Vance said he did. Those things were not happening in Springfield, but it doesn't mean that we can't pass a piece of legislation to strengthen our border. That's what Kamala Harris is talking about.
Well,
She's talking
Governor,
about solving the problem.
That piece of legislation does include the wall that you guys have been so, you've disparaged that. I mean, the vice president has as well. So I don't know if she really intends to move forward with that. But it was negotiated by 3 or 4 senators, and many Republicans came out against it long before President Trump indicated he didn't like it either. Listen, before we go, because I wish that we had a full hour, I want to give you a chance because you called yourself a knucklehead.
Because hold on, I'm going to go back. But I'm so tired of them trying to bring up this border bill. I'm wondering, like, how come nobody pushes back more on this stupid border bill? It had a bunch of Ukraine funding in it, like billions of dollars for Ukraine funding in it. It had no border wall funding at all. And it basically allowed amnesty to all illegal aliens that were already here. And then it allowed up to 5,000 illegal immigrants per day. A majority of Republicans didn't support it before Trump ever even said anything about it. So I'm like, why the hell they keep bringing this up, and why aren't more people pushing back on this thing? Like, I'm tired of hearing about this bipartisan border bill. If the Republicans, in my opinion, were doing what they were supposed to do, then we would never hear about this damn bipartisan border bill again. But I feel like the messaging is not all the way there. They need to like heavily address this and call it out for being stupid and say it over and over again. The Democrats keep saying the same stuff over. Project 2025, bipartisan border bill, dictator on day one. They keep saying the same BS all the dang time, and they get away with it. The Republicans need to do something similar. If it's an effective strategy, as long as it's not just evil like some of the stuff Democrats are doing, then you need to use it. If we're telling the truth, then yeah, tell the truth. Repeat it over and over again, even if it annoys the hell out of people, to make sure that the point is driven home and everybody knows what the actual real truth is, not everybody going around and parroting the lies of the tyrannical left.
I mean, the vice president has as well, so I don't know if she really intends to move forward with that. But it was negotiated by 3 or 4 senators, and many Republicans came out against it long before President Trump indicated he didn't like it either. Listen, before we go, because I wish that we had a full hour, I want to give you a chance, because you called yourself a knucklehead this week, to talk about some of your misstatements. Yes. You've modified your story or explained that you misspoke about things involving your military rank, about carrying a weapon in war.
Damn, but they got how many different things they got? They got a whole list of misstatements. What? Yo, Shannon Bream. Shannon Bream. Shout out to Shannon. I don't even know who this lady. Who is this lady? Shannon Bream. Don't saute him. Like, don't flip him over in the pan. Like, damn, Shannon. Wait a second. Military rank, carrying weapons in the war, 1995 DUI. That's a big one. A lot of people don't know about that one. Using IVF, another big one. 1989 Hong Kong, China. That's a Tiananmen Square visit. Oh, God. I didn't know she was going to cook him like that, bruh. Let me see what she got to say. Let me see what he got to say.
Story or explained that you misspoke about things involving your military rank, about carrying a weapon in war, your 1995 DUI arrest, using IVF to have your beautiful children, Gus and Hope, being in Hong Kong and China in the summer of 1989 during the Tiananmen events.
A lie.
A lot of people would say they couldn't get away with saying, I'm just too passionate, my grammar's not right, I'm a knucklehead. What do you say to the American people who think, I don't know that I can trust this guy with all those modifications to be the potential commander-in-chief of this country?
Yeah, well, I think they heard me. They heard me the other night speaking passionately about gun violence and
Now, we heard you say that you were friends with school shooters.
So I've become friends with school shooters. Speaking, and I got to be honest with you, Shannon, I don't think people care whether I used IUI or IVF when we talk about this. What they understand is Donald Trump would resist those things. Look, I speak passionately. I had an entire career, decades before I was in public office. They know, and I'm very proud of my 24 years in service and my record. I have never disparaged someone else in this, but I know that's not what Donald Trump does. They disparage everyone. The personal attacks. I will own up when I misspeak. I will own up when I make a mistake. Let's be very clear. On that debate stage the other night, I asked one very simple question, and Senator Vance would not acknowledge that Donald Trump lost the 2020 election. I think they're probably far more concerned with that than my wife and I used IUI to have our child, and that Donald Trump would restrict that. So I think folks know who I am. My constituents here in Minnesota have elected me 8 times. They know.
And so is there any evidence that Donald Trump is trying to restrict IVF? Like, what is this guy even talking about? Like, these people just make shit up.
Where I'm at, and I'm proud to be on the ticket, and we'll deliver just like we have here in Minnesota.
And if we're going to deal in truth, both the president, the former president, and his nominee have said that they are very supportive of IVF.
Yo, in my opinion, on that last point, she did push back. Okay, she did. She straight up hitting him with the hammer, tenderizing this man. You stupid. That's crazy. Tenderizing this man. She's cooking him. Okay, tenderize him first and then cook him. Well done. Eggs over easy. Okay, so Mr. Potato Head looking at Tim. So he got cooked pretty heavily here, but she should have went a little bit harder on that whole IVF thing, because it's another thing. I'm just tired of the radical left's lies, because they're trying to, everything that they say is just lies. And she did call it out, but it's one thing to say, well, they've said that they support IVF, but it's another thing to demonstrate proof. Donald Trump literally said that he's going to have taxpayer-funded IVF when necessary. Okay, in vitro fertilization is not like, I know some people hate it, but it's like, it's not like an abortion thing. It's like you're trying to help somebody get pregnant. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, that's a great thing. Now, taxpayer-funded is a different question, but still, like, you can't say, well, he doesn't support IVF, he's trying to ban IVF, and then he just talked the other day talking about, oh yeah, we're gonna make sure you get IVF for free.
I'm announcing today in a major statement that under the Trump administration, your government will pay for, or your insurance company will be mandated to pay for, all costs associated with IVF treatment, fertilization for women. IVF treatment.
It's the stupidest thing that these Democrats do, and they love to try to get away with lies because they're used to going on news media networks that allow them to lie and gaslight. And no, Shannon Bream wasn't having it. Fox News Sunday dinner is ready, okay, because Tim Walz got cooked. Like I said, okay, so let me know what you guys think. Do you think she did a good enough job exposing Tampon Tim for his lies? Should have called him out on tampons in the boys' bathroom, but nobody wants to talk about that for some reason. Nobody wants to talk about Minneapolis just burning the F down, but, you know, there's only so much time they had. This wasn't a particularly long interview. It was like less than 20 minutes, but let me know what you guys think. Drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new. I appreciate you watching a Black Anomaly Rising channel. I'm out.
What happened to you? Got my ass kicked.